Okay, so now let's talk about global variables. Now, in encapsulation, the functions that you've seen are totally sealed off from one another. Variables don't get shared back and forth. The only way to send information from one function to another is through their parameters. And the only way to get information back is from their return values. Now, it is possible to share data between different functions using global variables and global constants. When you set up a global variable, that variable is accessible from any part of your program. So we will demonstrate that with the Global Reach program. This program shows how you can access a global variable from anywhere in your program. It will also show how you can hide a global variable within a particular scope. And then it shows that you can change a global variable from anywhere in your program, and it affects the entire program. So let's go ahead and get started with that. We've got our new document, and I will save that. As global_reach.cpp. Okay. My initial comments. The title is Global Reach, and this demonstrates global variables. I'll include IOString. I'll use the std namespace. And now before I even begin anything else, before I give my prototype definitions for my functions or open my main function, I go ahead and declare a global variable. Because this is outside of any of my scopes, this is global. I'll just call it glob equals 10. And that's a global variable. Now I'll have some prototypes. Access global, void hide global, and void change global. Now I open my main function. Now let me just explain to you. The reason this is a global variable is because I have declared and defined this variable outside of any function or any scope. This is in the, basically before any of my programming has begun, I've defined this variable. I could also define a global constant here. Const int max enemies equals 5. That would then say that the maximum number of enemies as a global constant was 5. Okay, and again, it's global because I declare it outside of any of my functions. So let's go ahead and write our program. And in our main function, we'll see out in main glob is glob. We'll have a single line return, and we'll see out in main max enemies is max enemies, and then 2-line returns. Okay, after that, we'll go ahead and call access global. Then we'll call hide global. And now, when we get back into our main function, in main, glob is glob. In main, max enemies is max enemies. Okay, next we will call our change global function. In main, glob is glob. Two-line returns. And we'll return 0. Close our main function. Now, let's define our functions. Access global, cout, in access global, oh goodness, glob is glob. In access global, max enemies is max enemies. And that is all for that function. Our next function is hide global. Oops. Okay, now we're going to hide our global variable glob by defining a new global variable, or a new variable called glob. We define just an integer inside of hide global and set it equal to 0. This will hide the global variable glob. Oh. Now we'll cout in hide global glob is glob, two-line returns. Notice I'm not doing anything with my global constant max enemies here. And the reason is because you really should not be hiding constants or changing them. And in fact, we say that this is hiding the global variable, and it is because we're declaring a new one. I could have a new constant integer max enemies here, but that defeats the purpose of constants. Global variables are probably used, well, I don't know that you would use a global variable less frequently than a global constant, but the key idea behind constants is you don't change them. So you wouldn't really hide a global constant, you just wouldn't use it. Okay, next we'll have change global. And here we will just do glob equals -10. And this changes our global variable glob. In change global, glob is glob, two-line returns, and close that function. Once again, I'm not changing my global constant because that's the purpose of constants, is you don't change them. Variables you change, constants you leave constant. That's why they're called constant. All right, so let's compile that and run it. All right, so let's see what we have. In main, glob is 10, which is exactly what we defined it here. Max enemies is 5 as we defined it. We run access global. In access global, glob is 10, max enemies is 5, because those are my global variables and my global constants. Now I have hide global, and in hide global, glob is 0. Then I go back into my main function, and you can see in main, glob is, and now it's back to 10 because it's no longer hidden. It was only hidden inside of this function, inside the hide global function. Once we return to our main function, we get our global variable back, and it's still set to 10. Max enemies is 5. Next, we run change global, and we set glob equal to -10, and we say in change global, glob is -10. When we exit the change global function, we're back into main. And so we're going to check what that variable is once we get back to main. And you can see that it is still -10 because we changed it. We didn't declare a new one here. Okay, remember, when you are declaring a new variable, you have the type, then the identifier, and then optionally what you set its initial value to be. If you are just changing the value, you do not give the type. You just give the variable identifier, the operator sign, which in this case is equal because we're setting it equal to -10, and then the value you're setting it equal to. Okay, so that's global constants, global variables. Hopefully that concept makes sense. If it doesn't, please let me know. Email me or come see me during office hours. I will be more than happy to help you better understand that. All right, folks, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.